When I got there was a lot of emergency vehicles, and so I had to park on the roadway because there were so many. And I walked up and I met with my captain, and he basically explained what we had: a deceased male and female, mother and son, and that it was a pretty prominent family. Alex Murdaugh was the father and the 911 caller. From my initial walkthrough, I could tell that most likely the last thing Maggie ever saw was her son. Very graphically murdered.
The defense had this really, one of the main themes was that the responding officers, investigators immediately focused in on Alex Murdaugh. Is that true?
I won't say that we didn't. I mean, we've got 3 people. 2 are dead, 1's alive. So of course, you know, he was a person of interest to look into. Also, he was the one that found the bodies and made the call. The first thing that stood out to me was his clothes. I mean, he was, I know I said it on the stand, but he was so clean because it was a very graphic scene. It was a mess around Paul. It was, as Captain said, it was soaking wet. There was blood, there was brain, skull, hair, and he's claimed, we had listened to the 911 call prior to interviewing him, and he had said on that he tried to turn him over and he checked him. And there's nothing on him, and he's wearing these tennis shoes that have a light-colored bottom, and there's nothing. So that immediately stood out to me.
Gotta call her parents. What's her name?
Her name is Maggie Murdaugh. Margaret Brandstetter Murdaugh. How you doing?
His body language is sending indicators out the roof. Mm-hmm. He blank stares when he's recalling his story, which is more of an indication of him recapping memory of what he did, instead of his eyes dancing around where he's collecting information in front of him.
I went to my wife, and I could see. Mm-hmm.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them.
The only time his eyes dance around is when he is listening to us talk, or when we ask a question outside the parameters of what he's obviously had rehearsed.
Was it unusual for Maggie to feed the dogs this time of night or check on them?
Oh no, I mean, she played with those dogs all the time. And it's especially common for her to, you know, she's been gone for a while, to come and let especially 2 of them out to run.
He doesn't look at you at all when you ask him a question, but he looks when he is trying to receive information. For example, in one of the other interviews with them, that he asked, you know, do y'all have any good information? Do you have any good leads? I think is the way he put it. It's the first time I ever watched him actually turn and look at him.
So you feel like it's not random. You feel like it's intentional. I mean, planned.
I don't know what to feel right now. And I hate to say that. I don't know what to feel right now.
So do y'all have any good clues?
I mentioned on the stand that he wasn't crying, and everyone's different, but his emotions, I call them stop sign emotions. He could be in his version of a cry, and in a split second stop and go change direction and go into another story.
And I ran over to Maggie, and actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. You know, I tried to turn him over, and I don't know, I figured it out.
When I first got there and you saw the body cam footage where we lifted the sheet, I don't know how much attention you paid to Deputy McDowell, but it literally took him like 30 seconds to figure out where to place his foot, because he wasn't going to step on anything. We kept hearing why aren't you wearing booties? It's standard protocol to wear a bootie. It's not standard protocol to wear booties. Booties are made out of a paper material, right? Their purpose is not to take anything into a crime scene or take something else out, all right? So if it's wet and bloody outside, what's going to introduce less? paper booties that are soaked in water and blood or rubber soles. I mean, it's a situational issue. There's a group of footprints in the center of the room, which I believe you heard the agent say belonged to Paul. At 3:16 or 3:17, as we are removing Paul's body, all of that has been processed. We leave a print in the center of the room as we're removing his body. We actually have a picture of us leaving the print. It's all been processed.
So there's
That
no
was us.
bloody footprint that wasn't tested or identified that the defense wanted the jury to believe that could have been left by the perpetrator.
It
There's
was not the perpetrator. It was us.
The defense brought up hair in Maggie's hands.
Yes. So when I was with SLED one day, we were reviewing the autopsy photographs, and I noticed in one of her hands she had some strands of brown hair that were her own hair. Just no one ever asked me that. So unfortunately, her head wound, when it exited out the back of her head, it displaced a lot of hair. And when her body was laying in the grass, a lot of it landed around where her hands and arms were. And so when her body got moved, the hair went with her hands.
And that was something
That's what
the
that
jury
was.
didn't clearly know.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think they mentioned it in closing, that Maggie had hair in her hands that wasn't tested. I don't know if it was tested, but I can tell you from looking at it and matching it to the rest of the hair that was laying around her body, it was most likely from the exit wound in the back of her head.
I will defend SLED a little bit on this, because I know that the big thing has been, why didn't they go straight to the house with the search warrant and search the house? And we don't know exactly. As Laura said, we left and there was a new team taking over. I don't know what they saw exactly that steered them in the direction they went.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, they got 3 interviews out of Alex. 3 interviews that were able to look at his body language, were able to take the stories that he got that don't match up. One of the biggest pushes in the trial was that he lied, and we eventually got him to come clean on the stand. And we have 3 opportunities recorded of him being interviewed by agents in regards to that lie, and every one of them had an opportunity to come clean, he didn't. Had we treated him like a whole suspect that night, if we'd have gone in and tore apart the house and drilled him as a suspect as opposed to a caller, he's an attorney. You don't think that we'd have called back the next day and say, hey, we need to do a follow-up, and I'm telling you, it would have shut down. And that may have been part of their plan. I don't know completely, but I can see very clearly that, I mean, every time we talked to him, he had an attorney friend with him.
Yeah.
If we'd have pushed that envelope the first night, we'd have had 1 interview, and it would have been cut short, and we would not have had the other 2 to use to compare those stories. I believe he had some help in the aftermath.
Yes.
You know, the disposal of weapons, the moving around of vehicles.
Yes.
We heard so much about, oh my goodness, SLED and the AG's office, and they don't have anything. It's all circumstantial. So I pose this question to you. If it's a cleaned crime scene, staged crime scene, cleaned crime scene, would you expect to find more evidence or less? And that's what's kind of hard to get people to understand, is that we didn't find a lot. But why didn't we find a lot? Because it was cleaned. I mean, it's manipulated. There's evidence removed from the scene.
And you could do all
there
that
were-
in 17 minutes, or what was it, 16, 17 minutes? You have no doubt.
Well, you say 16 or 17 minutes, but I believe that they're pretty confident they were killed around 9 p.m. And then your phone call's not made until 10:07. So
And I think Almeida came into play
Yeah.
a little bit with that, and
Okay.
that would buy him more time, like to come back the next day, and which I think Miss Shelley testified to that. So
Blue raincoat.
yes, blue raincoat, him showing up at 6:30 in the morning, which wasn't usual. So I think he had more than enough time.
we had a nationally televised trial at the courthouse. We had it evacuated in 5 minutes. We had all of our priorities relocated under escort. No one knew where they were. They were taken care of. They were actually fed lunch. Everybody was escorted out. Everything was secured in 5 minutes. And in all honesty, in 2 hours, we were working on a suspect, and in 6 hours, we had the phone in our hands. You know, we have to be careful about what we say initially, and I know that was, trust me, I wanted to get up and tell everybody in the nation, hey, this is how we do things. I mean, we do plan, we do our jobs. You know, we leaned hard on SLED, hard on the South Carolina Department of Corrections. The AG's office helped out with this. So there were a ton of hands in it, and guess what? Here we are 2 hours later, we're heading down the road to go look for a suspect. 6 hours later, we've got the actual device in our hands that made the call.